Hello, my name is Neta Riskin. I'm an actress. I'm here for a movie I've done in Germany called Undertow, and it's in English. I think it's translated to Anywhere Else, and it is being premiered tomorrow in somewhere in town. And I guess I'm here for that reason. I will talk about this movie further on, and there's another project that I've done in Israel which I would like to talk about. Unfortunately, I wanted to make some videos of it, but I couldn't get hands on it. So I will talk, and I wanted to start with a completely different thing, but I've changed my mind during being here, and I'm gonna start with a short story about my grandmother. So, yeah, okay. Oh. So, my grandmother was an immigrant several times during her life. She accumulated a number of names, surnames, I think about 4 different birth dates, and a sizable amount of fake ideas. And she always used to say that the best thing in Israel is that anyone who gets there can reinvent themselves the way they please. But she said, she stressed out that whatever story you tell, no matter if it's a lie or it is a truth, one should know how to tell a story, because if there's anything worse than death, it's a boring person telling a boring story. So I hope that these 15 minutes are not going to be worse than death. I've never stood in front of an audience giving a lecture. Usually when I stand in front of audience, I know my lines in advance. And this time I came with a lot of paper, so if I ever start reading from it, you're free to sleep. Okay, so what I want to start with is that I used to live here once in Berlin. When I was young or younger, I lived here. I had a boyfriend, and I was, let's say, an illegal immigrant or alien, or however you want to put it, lacking any sort of documentation or a working permit. I could not work in any job, and therefore my boyfriend at the time came to my aid, and he opened a cleaning service. And I was its proud worker. So as part of my duties, I was not just a cleaning lady, I was a stairwells cleaning person, which is much better in the hierarchy of cleaning. And my duties were to clean the front, rear, and side parts of the building where we had lived. My duties included vacuuming the carpets on the way up, 5 stories, and then going down with a damp washcloth 5 stories down. I thought back at the time that I had made a deal of a lifetime, because Berlin was very cheap at the time. I was getting paid 50 euros per house, 150 euros per 2 hours of work, and 600 euros for 4 days of work a month, which was great. So one day when I was when I was vacuuming the staircase, I had this sort of a backpack vacuum cleaner. I was listening to some music on my headset, and I felt a gentle tap on my shoulder. I turned around, and there was a 50-something-year-old blonde, well-off, part of the bourgeois class, with this gentle scarf thrown gently over her shoulder. And she said hello to me. But the thing is that she said it in an overly gracious manner. She said, and this is the manner which we speak to a person who cleans our floors and tends the way under our legs. I was very offended, and I ran back to our apartment, and I threw aside the vacuum cleaner and told my boyfriend what had happened. I was crying and screaming, and he did not understand what happened, and he tried to, And he said, okay, let me get it right. She said hello to you. So it made me cry even more, and I said, you do not understand. She said it as if I'm an immigrant who cleans stairways. And then he was quiet. He looked at me, and he said, you are an immigrant who cleans stairwells. So the next day, I was back to Israel with a one-way ticket. Years later, as an actress, while I was working on the script of Undertow with a director named Esther Amrami, which I will talk about this movie. I wish I had a trailer of it, but I don't. I told her the story, and I suggested the possibility of adding this scene into the script. Fortunately, she gladly accepted my proposal. She thought the story strengthened the story of the character and the script, and she happily incorporated it into the film. We reenacted the scene almost as it had happened in reality. The vacuum cleaner, the only difference was that the vacuum cleaner was changed to a mop due to the sound engineer's complaints. And instead of a 50-something-year-old woman, they took a very beautiful 20-something camera-friendly girl. So it was important for me to reenact that scene because I believe that a lot of us have a hidden wish to be given the opportunities to relive certain moments of our life. And these are not necessarily moments of strength or happiness. We always want new ones. I think that the moments we want to go back to are rather moments of loss or moments that we ended up losing. Going back and reliving the moment with the tools that I've gathered along the way and in my new experience in life, after so much time has passed and viewing it from a distance, turns this moment of loss into a little sweet victory. I wanted to go back to this moment of complete humiliation, not as an immigrant who cleans stairwells for a living, but as an actress starring in a film. Usually, my main challenge as an actress is to truthfully portray a character that is entirely different than myself. With this project, I took upon myself a completely different challenge, which was playing myself exactly as I was 10 years ago and not building a new character. I was different. I was very, impulsive. I was had very sporadic decision-making skills, and I was pretty clueless at the time. And I guess that reenacting this scene in my way, let's say I'm quite of a spiritual person in the way that I'm also seeking a meaning of my life. And when you get a chance to relive and to reenact trivial moments from your own life and transform them into an art form, your mistakes or so-called failures take a new meaning. And they cease to be mistakes. They find their place. They're put into some sort of order. And they cease to be random or arbitrary decision, and rather than that, they become a narrative. So let me talk a bit about this movie I'm here for. It's called Undertow. It's in English anywhere else. It's about a woman in her early 30s that has been living in Berlin in the past 8 years with her boyfriend. She's studying in vain for her master's degree, without any advancing, and she's in the midst of writing her thesis about words that exist in one language alone and cannot be translated. She's trying to prove that certain words contain an emotional world that cannot be verbalized, that we humans are incapable of truly understanding one another. Her professor all reject her work, claiming it to be a gimmick with no ground of evidence. she's feeling the more they reject her and the more her boyfriend wants to move to Stuttgart, she's feeling more and more alienated to the place she's living in, which is called Berlin. And in a very impulsive decision, she packs her things and goes back to Israel for 3 days to think things over. She's holding on to memories of her past life, and she's hoping to get some encouragement or strength or compassion from her family and friends. But as she comes to Israel, she finds out that even there she's nothing but a foreigner. So I think the film questions some very important questions that we deal with today. Of course, it questions one's sense of belonging. So do we really belong to the place that we were born in, to the family that we were raised in? Can we reinvent ourselves, as my grandmother claims? Does feeling out of place comes out of misunderstanding the local language we live in? Can we find a mutual language with someone who speaks a different language than our own? Can we share a common language with someone who is foreign to us? And can words really influence the formation of our emotional world? Words which do not exist in any other language, carrying such deep meaning and emotion. I think that I don't have an answer, because I don't know if we constantly, forever be needing to translate ourselves, and do we cease at one point in our life to be exotic? And this I'm going to talk about later, and maybe this will give us this answer. But I think, however, that those questions drives many of today's films, because we are paying witness, our generation is paying witness to a new kind of human migration. I think, I'm not an historian, but I think that it's the first time since the prehistoric migration or the mass migrations in the 20th century that such a vast number of people are living in a place which they're not born in. I don't know about you, but you all had different accents, and I guess, I don't know where you're living or where you come from, but the difference between those migrations and the former ones during the 20th century is that these are not ideological immigrations and not political migrations. They don't hold an ideological agenda. And these are what I called personal migrations. And when things are not being supported by an ideological agenda, then who's supporting us and who's comforting our loneliness? I think that personal migrations, that maybe should have been the name of this, serves us with such a great artistic material. Because we're not dealing with, we're dealing with stories with personal background rather than political or ideological pamphlets. And these are humane films. And what propels this genre is human mechanisms. You can also say human spirit, but I think human spirit is too vast and too spiritual, and I think we're all driven by the same human mechanisms, and those are the same mechanisms that draws us back and back to the movie theaters. I don't know, I thought I would talk also about my previous work, which is quite opposite to what I've spoken on till now. I've played in a TV series called Stiesel, and it tells a story of a very closed-off community with extremely private and different social codes existing within the Jewish Orthodox world. And I remember that while we were filming it, we were questioning ourselves whether anyone in the secular world in Israel is going to be interested in some black dudes in hats and long beards. And much to our surprise, this movie not only succeeded a very big success, gained very big success in Israel, it was also now bought by Sweden and I think Denmark and France and now maybe to America and so on. And I think that when I'm trying to think what's interesting in an Orthodox Jewish world that takes place within a radius of 2 kilometers, so of course there is enchantment at gazing through a peephole and watching lives of such a closed-off, almost cult-like society. But I don't think that none of this would have worked, and if it didn't embody the amount of emotion, some universal associations that will allow each audience member to see a bit of themselves, whether they're Swedish or French or Israeli, to see something of themselves beneath those long black coats and beards. I'm not with a beard there, I'm with a wig, but nevertheless. And there's always something to be. I would put it this way: when we go to see a foreign film, we hope to get our dose of exotica. We want different clothes and different language and different colors and different music and different food, but we will not be completely satisfied with this exotic fix if we did not find something familiar. For example, it fascinates me when I see an Iranian movie and Iran always looks to me so far and closed off and bad, let's say, and I see a kid playing a Game Boy on the back seat and just the way I did. Or when I remember seeing in Nikita Mikhalkov's film, Urga, I don't know how it's translated to English, there was a poster of Sylvester Stallone on one of the walls in Siberia. So, of course, it's not only pop cultures or iconic pop culture iconics that gathers us together. But these are just, I believe, what burns really the bridges between us are familiar situations and familiar emotions. I think that my character in Shtisel, what she's really dealing with, no matter how she looks and where she lives, and what spoke to people there is that she's dealing with a betraying husband that leaves her, and she has to support a big family alone and to deal with all the humiliation that comes with it. Let me think what I'm going to talk about now, because I'm quite amazed I got through here. Okay, I've also played another character of a Russian immigrant in Israel, living under forged identity, but remaining loyal to her previous one. But I guess that it's not by chance that I'm being drawn to those sort of characters and scripts, because they all deal with conflicts of identity. And besides my personal failure of immigration, what I like about it is that an immigrant will always view himself as an outsider. Immigrants, I believe, they're comprised of many layers. They're like a silhouette screened on a backdrop of a film set. They always have another view on what we all see. And as I happen to be the daughter of an immigrant, the granddaughter of an immigrant, the great-daughter of immigrants, and it goes on and on. I think I'm the only first native in my ancestry so far. And but still, I was too born with the longing or yearning for a different place. And that's why it's so difficult for us, people who are either immigrants or sons and daughters of ones, it is almost impossible for us to commit or become a part of a specific place. I think this transit in which we are born to is the stories that many Israelis share in common. An inner conflict that sort of always banging itself into the corners of our souls. And as if we belong somewhere else, sharing an inherent longing to an imaginary elsewhere. And Undertow, which is also almost close by name, is talking a lot about it. So let me go to the beginning. The scene in the stairwells simply shares a moment of personal humiliation, and let's not put more to it. But I think a lot of us can encounter or may encounter or felt some of this humiliation or another one during our life. But as I said, I felt the urge coming back to Berlin and in order to take control and be the writer of my own story, to tell it from my point of view, and not from a point of view of someone standing in a staircase, looking down upon me and seeing an immigrant. People talk about people all the time. We gossip. We tell stories about one another. We make sense of reality by organizing it into stereotypical boxes and drawers, without giving a chance really to hear other people. I think films gives that opportunity, and after feeling my personal victory, reenacting that scene, and feeling like I was finally freed from this sense of inner immigrant living within me, I was no longer a foreign alien. I was a cosmopolitan, let's say. And along with that came the Berlinale. And when I opened the program booklet, or maybe it was some article I read in some newspaper, I was reading that this year's festival was proudly presenting a large number of exotic films shot in exotic places. And then I realized, much to my humble surprise and embarrassment, that one of those exotic films is Undertow, starring me. So I guess this answers the question, would we ever cease to be exotic? I guess it's a no. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I go back to our first lecture we had this morning. We had a lady from Turkey talking about a similar experience. And she called the
what
people...
What experience, sorry?
A lady from Turkey.
She was talking about, I didn't hear.
She was talking about people cleaning the floors.
Ah, good.
But she called them Bodenkosmetikerinnen.
Oh, good. That's a nice...
And she was talking in a very funny way.
Yeah.
Well, putting the problem of the humiliation you felt at another stage, at a different stage. She was making fun of the situation, and her final outcome was, I come back to Berlin and Turkish ladies have to survive here. And that brings me...
By the way, I was doing it not legally. Sorry if there's anyone here from the Ausländerbehörde of Finanzamt.
Yes, well, the problem is a very crucial problem. My point My point is to stress out for the audience, we all lived these two presentations this morning and yours, very emotional.
It's
and
the cleaning
very
lady's guilt.
Very deeply and in a very different way. So finally, it is very much linked to the culture where you come from, and it's very personal. It's very personal. It's a very personal way to live immigration.
Yeah.
And if we are saying, you said something very important. You said you are always an immigrant. That means you never succeed in getting into the new place you are living. You feel always as a foreigner. I don't think that many people are living it like this. I think many people start in feeling at home in the new place. I had in my country Portuguese woman. She had worked for 20 years, and then her husband wanted to go back to Portugal. And she said to me, well, now I am emigrating a second time. She was going home, but she was feeling again as an immigrant, as she had succeeded in taking the attitudes of the new home she had created with her children staying at the place. So what makes you so strongly linked to a geographical place?
I'm not linked to a geographical place. I'm jealous of people who are linked to a geographical place. As I said, I'm linked to an imaginary elsewhere. This is a thing that I'm born in Israel, but my father came from Lithuania, and he speaks Russian, and he is always how do you say? He's listening to Russian music and reads Russian books, and my grandmother comes from a different place. And there was always this sort of, look, in Israel, there are people that did not necessarily choose to come there. So these are a bit different immigrants than maybe other people. They, some of them were thrown from their places, so they always miss their former place. They do not belong anywhere, not there, not there. They belong to themselves. So I guess me too. I'm belonging to myself. But when I was here, I could never be German. I don't want to be, but I always felt this sort of, look, when someone doesn't speak well your language, you always think that he's a bit retard. And I wasn't. I wanted to scream, okay, I make a lot of mistakes. I sound stupid, but I'm actually quite smart. So I guess that's one of the problems.
Yeah. So we have the linguistic question. We debated it already this morning. So are there questions in our audience? Otherwise, I continue having questions here. I cannot go home. There is a question there.
Thank you. My name is okay. Hi. Hello? Yeah.
Hi.
My name is Tatiana. I would like to ask you about this link of belonging and migration, in a sense of migration as an option and transitional necessity to become free of diverse chains of categories like nation, belief, gender, or something else. When you migrate in another place, on one hand, you are nude, everything is gone, you are out of route, right. You are in the space without anything what was counting. But on the other hand, you have maybe the chance to redefine yourself, to find everything again by yourself, and to make it to your choice.
Yes.
And if there is a creative exile, like making movie or painting, you have a possible moment to think about this crisis or questions in a creative way.
That's right.
Could you link this personal experience with your movie experience and maybe explain if there is a real process of being free?
A real what? Sorry?
Did you explore like process of being free with your story within the movie development?
Very much. As you said, if you can look at your personal story as a tool to grow bigger and to know yourself better. Of course, when you're alone, also if you go to prison and you're just with yourself, you will get to know yourself. And a lot of people say it was a good experience. I don't wish for anyone here, but it's exile. You can't treat it as a different. I cannot give it a different word, even if you do it out of your own free will. Exile could be good or bad. It depends on your own soul and the way you if you're optimistic or pessimistic person. I'm quite pessimistic, so I always see what's wrong with everything. Of course, that when you, just as I said, when you can transform the things you do into an art and giving them a sort. I don't know even if it's an art, if you give them meaning, and they stop being random. Things don't just happen to you. You are the creator of them. Then of course you feel in control that you're building your reality and the reality around you. Of course that by portraying again certain moments in my previous life and being the creator of them. I'm not the director, but I'm playing it, I'm acting it. It gives you full power. It gives you're in control of everything. So I don't know if it answers your question, but this is I think that this is a very important tool to hold on to your existence, to write your story, to be the god of your life. That's an important lesson I've learned, and that was very thrilling and exciting. Yeah, I don't remember. I had something else to say, but I think it's enough.
Different questions? Yeah, the Polish.
Hi, Neta. My name is Natalia. You know you had a bad experience back in the past living in Berlin, and now whenever you return, did you change your image? Did the reputation of Berlin become more positive to you?
Well, I did not only have a bad experience. I was living here for a few years. I have a long affair with the city, sort of a love-hate relationship. I love it, I hate it, depends on the weather, depends on the people, depends on many things. I look at Berlin a bit as I look at my home, because it is a second home for me. I'm here many times. I'm here a few times a year. I have many friends here. I never really left this place. I'm now living in Israel. But I'm here so many times, so depends. Each time I landed two days ago, and the minute I went out of the airport, I was like, oh, it's like this place is so familiar for me. I don't feel abroad here. I'm like, after I'm here, I want to go on vacation. So, yeah.
And did you break up with your boyfriend when you went back to Israel?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. That's actually a funny story. He came after me to Israel, and he said, okay, let's live here. And I said, yeah, but what are you going to do here? You have no papers, just as I was. And then he came up with the idea, how about he's going to clean stairwells? And I said, enough with cleaning stairwells. I don't want to do it ever again. We did break up, but we took some more time till it happened. But he's a very sweet person.
Are you happy now where you are living?
With the place I'm living now?
Yeah.
It depends.
Well, I quote Schubert, Der Wanderer. You mentioned immigration as a problem of our time.
It's not a problem. It's a
phenomenon.
A phenomenon, yeah.
Phenomenon. It's not a phenomenon only of our time. In the song of Schubert, Franz Schubert, Der Wanderer, the last sentence says, Dort, wo du nicht bist, ist das Glück.
Yeah, I understand.
So the question for happiness, does it depend on a location or does it depend on something deeper and something
of course it is
we cannot name geographically and say it's a place and it's a language?
No, it is an inner thing. I'm not arguing with it, but I think that a lot of people share this, relate to this sentence that happiness lies in a place where we are not. I think, this is a different thing, because I think that this you can feel whether you're in your own place or out of place. But there's a certain thing that builds up while you're out of your. That a friend of mine called it out of your. What was this word? Never mind. Out of your place. Out of your. Out of your element. That's how she put it. Yeah, good. Thank you. You're out of your element. That's a different thing.
So I think we our question, yes, please, you.
Not so much a question, but a comment. I just couldn't resist. It just occurred to me that we're coming up upon the 100th anniversary of the First World War.
Yeah.
And Berlin, this place, this love-hate relationship that you have with it, has gone through many changes within that 100 years.
Slight changes, yeah.
Slight, yes. And, of course, being within the confines of the war wouldn't have been a nice thing, but after the war, into the 20s, there was a lot going on in Berlin. And I just thought about one film and the question of immigration. I don't know if you know Josephine Baker?
Yeah.
Okay, you know that film where she's, that silent film where she's dancing that banana dance?
No.
Yeah. Oh, you know it. I know you know it, don't you? Do you know it, Frau Schipkes? You don't know it. Actually, you should see this. Maybe we'll put it on after this is over. You know, she does this banana dance, a very sensual, you know.
A banana dance?
Banana dance, yes. Banana dance.
How do you do it? Can you, Okay, that's a banana dance, okay.
She's doing this, but also she's wearing these bananas. And Josephine Baker. Yeah.
And that means
yeah.
That's my mom.
Do you know it? She knows it also. I know she knows. Your mama knows, but your mama knows what you know. But anyway,
she remembers things for me. That's why she's here. She's holding my thoughts.
The thing is this.
Yeah.
The thing is this, and I want to get in Berlin too. Oh yes. And in fact, there's a building here that's dedicated to her stay here. Josephine Baker came here because she couldn't do what she was going to do. She's a very talented woman, and she couldn't do it in America because she was black. Well, maybe because she was a woman.
Both.
Was black, or maybe she was black and she was a woman. Either or. And a lot of people came to Europe, came to this very place to exercise their right for artistic expression in a free environment. Now, if we go from the 20s into the 30s, you definitely would have had a bad time. You know what I'm saying? Coming forward to today, a other opportunities present themselves. I mean, obviously the cultural atmosphere here in Berlin is much different than it was 70 years ago, you know. But having said that, even 70, 75 years ago, there were people underground doing things, you know, trying to push things forward in a cultural way, you know. So it just occurred to me, listening to what you were saying, and I had to think about Josephine Baker, the woman that you've forgotten that your mother knows that you know. You know? So
yeah, I know her. I just don't know this movie.
Okay, so maybe you should reinvestigate that, relive that experience. But immigration through film is a very interesting concept, and certainly for a lot of people who see film, they immigrate without ever leaving the place or the ground on which they stand.
Of course.
You know.
That's what I call a dose of exotica, that your exotic fix.
Well,
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So, oh, that was not a question. No. Oh, okay, just a comment. Okay, thanks. Okay.
So I think we all will have to have a look at Undertow.
Yeah.
And we thank you so much for
coming.
Thank you very
much.
We wish you very great success.
You.